My name is Neil Murphy, and I do a kind of a combination mixed media. It's a mix of traditional media with paint and inks and also digital techniques all mixed in and swirled around together. So I get my inspiration from numerous sources. I love to think about nature and the patterns of nature. I think in this crazy world we've got, it's so polarized, and I find that nature gives me a lot of comfort. I'm sure it does everyone, where nature might have a hurricane over here and a quiet pond over here, and there's all this stuff in between, and it seems like my life is often going in polar directions, and art brings me into the center and makes me observe the world. For example, in my love of nature, one of the things that I concentrate on frequently is neuroscience. And I do that because this thing just fascinates me so much. And also the fact that in our world there's so many people with mental health issues. And so if you have a little understanding of how our brains work, maybe we can be a little bit less stigmatizing about mental health, that kind of thing. So a lot of my work is neuroscience based. For example, this is a neuroscience piece. And one of the main receptors in our bodies is called the G protein couple receptor. And something like 60–70% of medicines attach to a G protein couple receptor. And the actual receptor itself penetrates the neurocell wall, but it has a beautiful structure. And so this thing that looks like a wonderful merry-go-round or Ferris wheel is actually a natural structure that's sort of the mathematical description of what this receptor looks like. And one of the things that happens is when people walk into my studio and they ask about the neuroscience, and I mention that I'm fascinated with it and that there's mental health challenges in my family, and it opens a door to conversations about mental health challenges. And almost everyone has a story, or they know someone in their family or a relative who's dealing with those challenges. So I think one of the things I do for fun is put some real science into things, like here's some G protein couple receptors, but I love to put it in a crazy background. So looking over here, these other artworks are different. They're acrylic washes and inks on canvas, and then they're glued onto panels. And I think part of the idea I was expressing earlier is that things seem to be so polarized. So I have this series of artworks that's kind of, this one is titled Grace and Anxiety. And it shows, when you get closer to it, it shows all kinds of anxious sort of things happening with brain waves, but it also shows a lot of grace and the moon moving through it. So it's kind of a combination of those two items. This is quite similar. This one's called Everything and Nothing. And again, it's kind of this feeling of the super polarized world we're in. And so I love to put some things into the art that show some fun little animals, some craziness, some peace, and everything. And then there's also like, what? Out here, it kind of, where's this go? It goes into nothing. And I just find that represents my life and so many of our lives. And being an artist has some good parts. And I think the best part, and I often say this to people who wander into my studio, I mention that if I had to give all this up, I would be really sad. But equally important is the people I meet. They come into the studio, we start conversations. Sometimes I have them drawing on some of my artwork, and we talk about mental health challenges. They say, why do you have so much neuroscience? And I say, well, we have all these issues in my family and in society, and it opens these wonderful conversations, and it's friendships. You make friends that way. So art is really all about a bridge to new friends.